Well, we have with us Carmel Shute. Carmel, you were one of the founders of Sisters in Crime. Can you tell us a little bit about Sisters in Crime?
Well, we've been going since 1991 and we've been on a mission to bring the joys, the pleasures of women's crime writing to the broader world and to have lots of fun doing it.
And do you see your role to be particularly focused on helping young female authors get into crime writing?
Well, we certainly do our best to encourage it. So we've got the Scarlet Stiletto Awards, which have now been going for 26 years, and that's a short story competition, and that's done an enormous amount to unearth talent. So over those years, over the past 25 years, 25 authors have gone on to have novels published, which is a pretty good record. And then we've also got the David Awards, which are for Best Crime Books from the year. Previously, that's been now notching up 19 years. And that gives women a lot of encouragement as well, and also their publishers, to take a bet on Australian women crime writers and not just bring in the latest blockbuster from America.
And can I join Sisters in Crime?
We love brothers-in-law, and can I just say that at our events, new brothers-in-law almost always win the raffle.
Can I ask you when did you first get to know about Charlotte J? When did she first come to your attention?
Well, she came to my attention when I was contacted by Wakefield Press in 1992. They'd just published Beat Not the Bones, the novel which won her the inaugural Edgar Allan Poe Award presented by the Mystery Writers of America. And she was coming to Melbourne, and I think they rang me up the day before, said, we've sent you the book, and could you please do an interview with Charlotte J? She arrives tomorrow night. So I had to do a very, very fast read of her book and meet up with her after she got off the plane, after quite a few gins, I have to say, on her part. She'd obviously developed a bit of a passion for gin on the diplomatic circuit with her husband for all of those years. But she was terrific, and I feel it's such a privilege that I got to meet her, because not many people did.
It's probably true to say that Charlotte J as an author is best known in the USA, perhaps slightly less better known in the UK, and even less better known in Australia.
That's right. In fact, Beat Not the Bones wasn't even published in Australia first off, as far as I know. So it had a very, won great critical acclaim in America and to a lesser extent the UK. But, just not even known here in Australia. Of course, it didn't help the fact that she was out of the country for a very long period with her diplomatic husband. Oh, well, actually, he worked for UNESCO, so...
And it's interesting, isn't it, because she and her husband obviously travelled around the world a lot, and she took great advantage of that by setting her books in many of the places where they ended up.
That's right, Thailand, Lebanon, Trobriand Islands, etc., yes.
Yeah, so perhaps part of the issue with Australians for her is that only really her first book is set in Australia.
The Knife is Feminine, yes. And of course back then there wasn't much of a crime market, and there wasn't much of a market for Australian literature generally, so it was quite difficult, I think, for a lot of writers to make a go of it in Australia.
Yes, because most of the books of hers that we see are the Collins Crime series, which of course is published in the UK, and then maybe some of them were shipped out to Australia. But as you say, until Wakefield Press took an interest in the early 1990s, there were no Australian editions of her work.
And I've got the 3 books they put out, but that's it.
That's it, which is disappointing in its own right.
It is, and it's just a shame that she didn't go for a bit longer, because when Sisters in Crime was more established, we would have definitely tried to have an event with her.
Can you reflect on reading Beat Not the Bones and what it has to say now about what life would have been like in Port Moresby back in the early 50s?
Well, I was just swept away with it. I thought it was an outstanding book and full of terror. And what I particularly admired was the way that she took crime from the mean streets of the United States and the cosy English villages and put it in the jungle. So you can say that she's the pioneer of tropic noir, what we now call tropic noir. And not only that, not only was it a ripper of a crime read, but it was also about a young woman's self-realisation. She arrives in Papua New Guinea to discover or to find out what happened with the murder of her husband. And she's a very naive, convent-educated gal, and she has a bit of a rude awakening.
The picture of the male administrators in PNG in those days, I think to us now seems terribly paternalistic, chauvinistic and racist. But I recall from reading an account of your interview with her that she didn't feel that at all when she was writing it.
That's right, she thought they were, she greatly supported that administration. She thought they were fairly benign. But I have to say, I went to Papua New Guinea in 1975, just before independence, and it was a vilely racist place.
So it's interesting that I think the impression of that book now is really greater on modern thinking Australians than it would have been perhaps back in its day.
That's right. She showed, I thought, a remarkable degree of, a remarkable lack of self-awareness about what she was doing. And when people like myself compared her to The Heart of Darkness, she just roared with laughter, where it's definitely, in that vein. And when you talked about the colonial administration, again, she was just saying, it's just one or two bad apples that I portrayed. She didn't see it as a systemic issue whatsoever. And she was also fairly naive about her central character, I thought, about her, again, her own journey towards self-realisation.
How much do you think that central character reflected Charlotte J., Geraldine Hall's own persona at the time?
I've got no idea. I think she was a rather more sophisticated person, and she was well travelled, and I don't think she was provincial in the way that her central character was.
Because it really is a picture of an extraordinarily naive young woman going into the jungle, as it were, and well outside her comfort zone.
And what's hysterical is that Charlotte J. never actually went into the jungle herself. She just made it all up. And I was saying I was really impressed by that plant with the big orange flowers. And she just made it up, but I think there were plants like big orange flowers. So she just managed to hit the nail on the head without actually doing any research of that ilk herself. She didn't go up the sea-pick or anything like that.
And like you, when I first read it, I immediately thought of Heart of Darkness. The only difference is there wasn't a curse at the end of the river to make all the demons come true. In fact, it was rather a somewhat anti-climax at the end of the river.
Exactly.
In the journey in the book. So it is interesting. I was also very struck by The Knife is Feminine as a picture, not that I was around in 1950 in Sydney, but it's just as I imagined it probably was. The way she represents it just seems to me so real and authentic.
And she was always at a pains, she said, to tell a really good story and to be entertaining, and I think she does that in spades.
Yes, but yet there's a as you said, there's threat and terror in all her writings. One of the main incidents that happens in The Knife is Feminine is that there's a strange sort of boarding house that the protagonist is drawn to. He knows it's something wrong about it, he knows it's creepy or it's dodgy or something, but we all know as readers he's going to go in there, he's going to stay there, even though all the signs are saying, don't do it, don't go in.
And a hang of hair is also really creepy.
So she's got that ability to create that atmosphere out of very ordinary makings.
Yes, and that's what makes her such a great writer.